Westfield is back with this, the Se.NA R-T, R for road, T for track. So, a Westfield, what's going on? I thought Westfield went out of business years ago, but it turns out that in 2022, a new owner took over. They took control of the engineering plans, the rights to the brand, set up a new location, hired some engineers, and then got to work trying to figure out the engineering designs of this car. Now, it wasn't a complete redesign. Obviously, it still retained an awful lot of the plans from the previous company, but they still had to make sense of it. And without having someone to sit down and explain the thinking behind some of those plans, well, it essentially meant they had to start re-engineering significant parts of this car. They've also redesigned the interior, giving it something that certain other Sevens don't have: an indicator stalk that actually self-cancels. And if you're a Caterham owner who has the toggle for switching on and off your indicators, then you'll know that it can be a little bit embarrassing from time to time when you forget to switch them off. And also on the interior of this car are these tilt seats, and the base of this seat has a slightly more accommodating edge to it, which means it doesn't squeeze your thigh quite so much. Something that I do want to point out, in fact I don't even need to point it out because you can see it quite prominently, is this huge bonnet scoop. Honestly, it looks very cool. Now, this actually was based on a design of a V8 Westfield that existed in a distant past. This, however, they decided to keep partly for aesthetic reasons, but also significantly for cooling reasons. And the rear has been redesigned as well, including integrating these new taillights. These LED taillights look very, very cool. And well, one of the engineers said, when you're driving it on track, please do me a favor, just put the running lights on. I really think they look really, really good. And I will agree. But also on the back here, we've also got this big diffuser section down here, which helps to just channel the air out from underneath the car. Now, something that I think is interesting about the design of this car is the rear just looks really muscular. It has this wideness to it that I think you don't get on some of the other Seven-based designs. And this has been smoothed out just to modernize it a little bit whilst retaining some of that original Lotus 7 awesomeness. The front has actually received some modernization with these LED headlights. These carbon fiber mudguards look very cool. I also quite like just the shape of the front here. There's something about it that looks just a little bit newer and meaner. But you don't really want to see me standing here talking next to the car. You want to see me take this on track. So let's go out there. I'll tell you a few more tech specs on the car and let's see what it's like to drive. Right, engine's warm. Let's start getting some heat into the tyres and brakes. And I need to explore the basic dynamics of this car before I put in a proper lap. Well, as proper as I dare, because this is their first car off the production line. So I need to make sure I hand it back in one piece. Now, the first thing you notice is the sound of that 2-litre naturally aspirated engine developed with ProDev engineering. It's 210 horsepower, doesn't sound like a lot until you realise that its sub 600 kilogram weight, including a full tank of fuel, gives it 352 horsepower per tonne. This is in the ballpark of a Porsche 911 992 GT3, so that should be more than enough. But if you want more, you can go for the T, which bumps the power up to 255 horsepower or 427 bhp per tonne. For me, the RT is just enough power, and it sounds so good. And you get the occasional pop and bang from the exhaust that sounds completely natural. The engineers told me that they had to actually map the pops out because it was popping too much. Well, honestly, I think they got the balance just about right. Now, I should say that it may be a little on the loud side for some tracks, so you may need to bear that in mind in the track days you take it on. I would be remiss not to mention this gearbox. The shifts are sublime.
just clicks with the shortest amount of movement, but with the positivity you fall in love with. And with the spacing of the pedals, it makes heel and toe rev syncing a breeze. And by the way, if you're wondering why the track-based content lately, we're out on the Radiator Arms Track Club Track Day. The Radiator Arms is our podcast here on JayEmm Friends with me, James and Will, where we talk about all things car related. But one of the best things about our track days is the diversity of the cars. Here you'll find everything from a Rover 100 to record-setting hypercars of the past, and everything in between, including this car. I have to say, the driving dynamics of it are fantastic, entirely unfiltered. Its lack of power steering gives you superb feedback through the wheel, and its adjustable damping with single adjustment, bump and rebound give you complete control over how you want the car to behave. I was running a slightly road bias setting, still suitable for the track, but just to get used to the car. If I had the car all day, I would want to spend some time experimenting with the settings, taking it progressively stiffer at the rear to allow a little more rotation in the tighter bends. But for my first time out of this car, it was set just about right. Now, one of the big challenges any car in this class struggles with is the price. The RT starts at £55,000. This one, spec'd with the custom interior, is over £60,000. For some, this raises the question, well, what else can I get for the money? But for others, they'll all prefer the subtly modernised look, having a Lotus 7 base design with a different badge that still has legitimate heritage. The Se.NAs are only available pre-built from factory. However, Westfield do have a kit car model for those who do want the traditional self-built experience. But look, I think once you test drive this car, you will get as addicted as I did. I didn't want to come back in, and it just pounded in the laps, lap after lap after lap. Temps have stayed consistent thanks to the upgraded oil cooling system, and there was no brake fade thanks to the ventilated discs and uprated pads. It never skips a beat. I think you could drive this hard enough that the average person will probably get tired well before the car does. Right, enough talk. Let's put in a lap of Blyton Park in this Westfield Se.NA R-T. And once we come back in, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this car. Let's go! So I've just had a few hot laps in this and it is very good. I was not as powerful as the Atom that was ahead, but this car can keep up in the corners. Or maybe it's just me, the driver. I'm not sure. The car is very predictable. I had one minor moment and lost a little bit of grip, but managed to recover it just fine. And that's because the car talks to you. You are having a conversation with this car and it is having a conversation back with you. I mean, this is the least you would expect from the 7 platform, but with Westfield having been out of action for as long as they have and for the new engineers pretty much having to decipher what was not very clear engineering plans, without explanation at least, from the previous engineers of the old Westfield. They have had to take some time to get this car to a point where, yes, they think it is ready. And today they've asked me and James if we think it's ready, and I will be entirely honest with you. If the answer was no, I'd be lying. Well done, team. Well done, Westfield. I'm really looking forward to really trying this car out more thoroughly in future.
I really do think that Westfield have got something special here. I can tell you, if you haven't driven a 7 before, try one of these. You might like it. Anyway, like, subscribe, and check out our podcast, The Radiator Arms. Now, I'm going to go and help James finish filming this car.